How is it just to put a person who is a good person by society standards and a person who has killed many people in the same boat? Like, why, if a God exists, why would he do that?
Doesn't Jesus say he forgives everyone if you accept him anyways? I can do whatever the I want. Jesus is going to forgive me for everything. Like,
No, God only forgives us when we ask him for forgiveness. We have to ask him for forgiveness. In humility, we have to ask him to forgive us. Now, think about this. If I steal $500 from this guy, and he says, Cliff, you stole $500 from me. And I say, well, here's $250. He says, wait a second, Cliff. You stole $500. You owe me more than $250. And I say, bug off. I think I owe you $250, so here's the $250. See, the problem with that is, it's his $500 that I stole. And for me to think that I just can give him $250 and that's justice is wrong.
you should give him interest.
Okay? Well, according to Christ, it's God who I've sinned against. And it is God who defines what I owe him. And according to God, when I sin, what I owe him is my life. The wages of sin is death.
God's a selfish...
What if he
Why is God a selfish person?
I think God should give me something nice if I get cancer. He's the one who gave me it. You know, like, if I have to give God all this when I get cancer or HIV or some disease, doesn't God owe me something?
No, God doesn't owe us anything. God gave us the gift of life and we messed it up. So God has been very generous. God gave his only son Christ to bleed and die on a cross. So, God has given himself for us. Now, the question is, how are we going to respond to God's grace, to his generosity? That's the question. How are you going to respond to God's love, to his generosity? How am I going to respond to God's love and God's generosity? That's the issue. Think carefully. Now, why do you say that God is such a horrible being? Sir, what's your point? Why do you think God is such a horrible being?
Because he's jealous and selfish.
Jealous?
Yeah. No gods before me. I mean, why does it matter to him if he's an omnipotent being? It has no effect on him whatsoever.
Good.
What we do.
Good.
Why does he care?
Very good. Okay, I have 3 sons. If one of my 3 sons is buying into drug addiction, and he goes out on the street corner and meets with a drug dealer, if I'm not jealous for my son's allegiance, there's something wrong with my love. If I walk into my house and my wife is in the arms of another man and I experience no jealousy, then I don't understand what love is.
You don't have 6 billion sons.
Yeah, but when we talk about God's jealousy, we're talking about his love, which is committed to us. And because his love is committed to us, when he watches us go after idols that lead to destruction, he is jealous.
Yes, he's so committed to us that he gives cancer to good people.
God doesn't give cancer to good people.
Really?
Really?
Who gives cancer to good people then?
You and I live in a cursed, messed up world, just in case you haven't noticed.
Wasn't Jesus supposed to?
And there's a lot of havoc and a lot of chaos. And when you read the Bible, you bump into Genesis chapter 3. And in Genesis chapter 3, we read about a fall. And it's a big fall. It's not a question of someone stubbing their toe. Adam and Eve commit cosmic treason against God. There's a major fall. And that's where the earth is messed up. What's the point of the book of Job? Did Job sin? Is that why he suffered? No. Job suffered because he was born into a cursed, unfair world.
Job suffered because God had a bet with Satan.
Yes, Satan obviously challenged the integrity of Job's faith. Correct.
So God has a gambling problem.
No. It's an issue of free will. It's an issue of free will. And obviously Satan's point was, the only reason Job has faith in you is because he knows who butters his bread. And his faith is just based on you unloading the goody-goodies on him. And once you take the goody-goodies away, he'll curse you to your face.
But we're missing the point that God felt he had to prove himself to Satan. Why did he feel he needed to prove himself to Satan?
God didn't have to prove himself to Satan.
He didn't have to, but he felt he needed to.
No,
and
he did not. The book of Job is not about God proving anything. The book of Job is a challenge of, is Job's faith based on having the goody-goodies in life delivered on a silver platter, or is Job's faith based on the character of God being good in spite of the circumstances of life? Jesus Christ contradicts Buddha, Muhammad, the avatars of Hinduism. The law of non-contradiction applies. A and non-A cannot be both equally right in the same way at the same time.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, the question is, does the evidence support Jesus Christ as being reliable, or Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, or Muhammad, or Shirley MacLaine, or whoever you're seriously considering?
I mean, the evidence I've seen, no, and no. To answer all those questions.
Well, how in light of the fact that Jesus lived a sinless life, he taught amazing ethical teaching.
Fact.
Robert Cole, psychology professor at Harvard University, points out, all the writings on ethics over the past 2,000 years are simply footnotes to the Sermon on the Mount. When you read the Sermon on the Mount, it's obviously the teachings of an ethical genius. Thirdly, as Jesus dies on a cross, instead of cursing his enemies the way I would have, he prays, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And then fourthly, 3 days after he dies, he physically, bodily rises from the dead, and over a period of 40 days appears to over 500 people who see him risen from the dead. The evidence is you can trust Christ because he's credible.
Okay, guess what, man? My grandpa died and resurrected 50 years ago. And he talked to 50 people. Do you believe me? No, you think I'm crazy.
I don't think you're crazy. I'm going to ask you, what's the evidence that your grandpa really rose from the dead 50 years ago?
I have a book here.
Well, give me the evidence that your grandpa rose from the dead, and I'll look at the evidence.
I have a book. You want the book?
I thought you guys were at a very fine institution of higher learning, where you're being taught. Demand evidence before you believe. You've got to look for the evidence. Now, the historical evidence is Jesus lived a sinless life. He taught amazing ethical teachings. He died on a cross forgiving his enemies, and he rose from the dead.
There's no evidence. What? The evidence is eyewitness accounts from people a couple thousand years ago.
Yeah.
That evidence wouldn't fly. That evidence wouldn't.
The point, sorry, if I could.
That just
The
doesn't
point is
fly.
that you have a series of anecdotes, and that's not hard evidence. You don't have videos, you don't have actual accounts, you don't have, stuff that we can view today and actually legitimate. You have a series of anecdotes. And people would say that that's not hard evidence where other people would. And so how can you disclaim his evidence and say that this other evidence is correct when you have no way of legitimating either one?
You have faith.
All right. Why do I trust the New Testament Gospels as being more than anecdotal? First point, the New Testament documents have so much more manuscript evidence than any document from antiquity. It's embarrassing. Aristotle, Plato, Thucydides, Herodotus. At the most, we have 20 extant manuscripts. That's all we've got, 20. For the New Testament, we have in Greek over 5,000. There's no comparison. The New Testament Gospels have more manuscript evidence than any document from antiquity. And certainly, I hope you guys think that Aristotle and Plato and Julius Caesar really did exist.
I do, but
Good.
Julius Caesar's commentary isn't always reliable.
Julius Caesar wrote about the Gallic Wars. I hope you think the Gallic Wars took place, because the historical evidence is they did.
They did, but Julius
Good.
Caesar was a politician.
Yeah.
He wrote for entertainment, not only for the purposes of his own reelection.
Good point. If you use evidence, it ceases to be faith. That's where you and I disagree. I would argue that if you believe something with no evidence, that is blind gullibility.
Dude, took the words right out of my mouth.
Good.
Honest.
And we're thinking together.
Yeah.
Faith had better be based on evidence. Otherwise, it is blind gullibility.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. If Jesus Christ had been a first century Jimmy Jones or David Koresh, do you think I would put my faith in him? No. If Jesus Christ had not risen from the dead, do you think I'd put my faith in him? No. It is because Jesus Christ lived the quality of life that in my best moments I've tried to live, but have failed. And secondly, it's because Jesus died and rose from the dead. That is why I take a step of faith and trust in him. God is present in earth today by his Holy Spirit, drawing you to himself. He loves you. He wants you to spend eternity with him in heaven. and he wants you to live in a spiritual relationship with him. He's given you the gift of life. You have a date with death. He wants to give you eternal life.
So what about Haiti?
What about it?
God just killed all those people?
No. An earthquake is not God groaning. That's panentheism.
What, can God control all?
Yes, God controls all.
So why wouldn't he stop an earthquake from happening?
It's real simple. God has chosen to partially limit his power by creating us with a free will. The reason that God chooses to limit his power is because if he doesn't give you a free will, can you love?
Of course.
How does a machine love? How does an automaton love? And how does something that doesn't have a free will love?
Is a machine alive? Does your dog love you?
Sir, if you've been dating a young lady for the past 2 months and she's told you that she loves you, and tonight your father calls you up and says, son, I've been paying her $1,000 a week to love you, how would you feel?
I'd feel pretty upset, but I don't have a girlfriend.
Good. I'm glad you'd be upset. All right? Why? Because love, in order to be real, has to be free.
Your dog is free and loves you.
I don't know. I've never had a good conversation with my dog. So I don't know about dogs. But I do know about my wife. I do know about my friends. I do know about my 3 sons. They do love me. Crazy of them to love me, but they love me freely.
The dogs aren't naturally advanced as us. They can't talk. They don't have the ability to converse with us.
Okay, that's why I don't know whether a dog loves or not. I don't know what goes on in the mind of a dog. If you do, great. I don't.
But this all comes back to, why does God allow terrible things to happen? You say that it's free will. Why does he allow us to have the free will to allow terrible things to happen? We didn't make that earthquake.
Right. Neither did God. Instead, Genesis 3 records that when we human beings rebelled against God, he took a step back from planet Earth, and chaos filled the gap. Nature began to unravel, break down. And so we're born into a cursed, messed up, unjust, unfair world. Not because God created it that way, but because we human beings told God, get lost. He steps back from planet Earth, and chaos erupts. So you're born into an unfair world, as am I, as are the Haitians. Nature's cursed.
Cursed because we don't follow God.
Cursed because we told God, get lost. He steps back from planet Earth, and chaos erupts.
So why do good people die for no reason then?
Because life is chaotic and messed up.
Then why should we feed the hungry?
Why should we feed the hungry? We should feed the hungry because they have real value as human beings created in the image of God. Because God created us with an understanding of justice and love and compassion. And God holds us responsible to feed the hungry because that's why he created us, to love. And when you see someone who's starving, you got to feed them. When you see someone with cancer, you got to try and find a solution to their cancer.
Why must it be done for God? Why can't I do it out of the good of human will?
You can't do it out of the good of human will.
But God says it has to be done for him.
No, God doesn't say it has to be done for him. But the question is, why do you do it out of goodwill? Why? Why do you feed the starving out of goodwill? Why?
Because I care about people. I want to see people succeed. I want to see people happy.
Good. Peter, do you think that's real?
Of course.
You don't think it's just relative? You think it's really absolutely good?
I truly care about everyone here.
Good. Okay, now remember, the only way there can be a moral absolute, like real good, is if there is some God to create and define this intangible value of real absolute good.
How so?
Okay. Science does not prove justice, goodness, and love. Justice, goodness, and love are intangible values, right? You've never seen a foot of justice. You've never measured out a pound of love, have you?
I would disagree. And I wouldn't say science. I would say sociology. Sociology defines justice in context of society. Justice differs from society to society, and you can measure it. You can quantify it in terms of society, in context. It's not an absolute concept that is universal through every human being. She might view justice differently than I might view justice.
Yeah.
He might view justice differently than you view justice.
Right.
And that has to do with context. That's not universal.
Do you think that the Nazis did wrong in gassing Jews?
By my view of justice, of course. Did they? No.
Do you think that there's a value of justice that is above your cultural law?
Of course.
There's different views of justice, yes.
No, but is there a law, is there a value of justice?
Is there some staple of what justice is? No, I don't think so.
Okay, good. You've heard of the Nuremberg trials?
Yes.
1945 to 1949, right? Now, the lawyers for the Nazis were brilliant. And what they argued was, you allies have to understand something. These Nazi soldiers gassed Jews because their commander told them to.
Yes.
Secondly, because their culture told them to.
Yes.
So who do you Americans and English and French think you are in judging Nazis who were simply following orders and their culture? The Nuremberg trials shut down until the American consul, Robert Jackson, stood up and said there is a law above the law. And according to this law, above the law of culture and powerful people, gassing Jews is absolutely wrong.
And what law?
Bingo. That's what you got to answer.
No, that's the question I'm asking you. What is the
Obviously,
law that they said?
Obviously, the only way there can be a law above the law of culture is if there is some type of mind prior to the human mind that defines what is just versus what is unjust. I'm standing here saying, you know, because you have a conscience and a rational mind, that gassing Jews is absolutely wrong.